Hello and welcome back to That Is Nice podcast. I am here with Jake. Before this, Jake and I were talking about the next evolution of humans, if there is one, if there's one that's needed, and is this ever even going to happen? So, Jake, what is your take on that? Do you think that there is going to be a need for humans to evolve further, or what?
Okay, so in my personal opinion, the way evolution works, well, not my opinion, I think it's just kind of fact. The way evolution works is, you said it very well, so I'm just going to repeat what you said. Favorable genes get passed down, and unfavorable genes get, I guess, weaved out due to natural selection. And I think natural selection has been kind of halted for humans due to modern medicine. So the evolution of humans is kind of at a standstill in that sense. Like all genes are kind of getting passed down, bad or good.
You think that has to do with like modern medicine?
Oh yeah, for sure. Modern medicine, keeping people alive. It's the way things work, at least in first world countries, is if someone has an issue that would kill any other animal that has that issue, such as let's say you're born with a limp, right? You'll survive if you're a human. You'll survive. You'll probably live a pretty normal life. You'll just have a limp. Maybe some people will look at you funny, but you'll be fine. You can still go to the grocery store and buy your food, eat, drink, be healthy for the most part. Meanwhile, if you're born a dog and you have that limp, you can't hunt for your food and you can't survive. So generally you'll die and won't pass down. If it was a genetic thing, let's say, because sometimes it's not, but if it's a genetic thing, you won't pass down that gene that caused that limp. I don't know if genes can even cause a limp, but it's just an example.
So do you think that there is not, if there is more evolving for humans to do you think it's not going to be very significant?
Yeah, it's not going to matter. It's not like, I feel like evolution's not something you can really track either. It's just such a long paced thing. Like, I feel like the way it works, it's not like you get better. It's more of like enough changes happen to a common ancestor that they become a new creature, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to think of an example of that. I don't really think I know any examples because I don't really.
Well, it would be like short-necked giraffes and long-necked giraffes.
Exactly, short-necked giraffes and long, like two different species of anything. Two different species of cats.
But the thing is, evolution, it doesn't have to be something physical that you can see. You don't have to
No,
see.
it doesn't.
Yeah, it could be something internal that you can't see.
Give an example.
For example, would be our cognitive abilities. Yeah. When we were chimps, our cortex was not as advanced. We didn't have the sort of like creative and theoretical way of thinking as we have now.
Yes. Agreed.
But you can't really just see that looking at somebody, but it's there. And for that reason, that's why I think there probably is another iteration of humans coming right now. Like we're in the middle of it, I believe.
The thing is, we won't get smarter and our brains won't get bigger and more developed just because time passes. Like, there has to be a reason. There has to be, like, we're not smart enough to survive. So the ones that don't have better cognitive abilities die, while the ones that do have better cognitive abilities pass on their genes, right? And that can't happen because everyone's living in the way things work now. So I'm not saying there can't be smarter and stupider people, but I don't think it'll ever reach a point where everyone is just generally smarter. I think we'll stay around the same level of cognitive.
Why do you think it'll never reach a point to everyone's smarter?
Because if you think back to Egyptian times, right? That's how long ago was that? That was a pretty damn long time ago. And those people weren't any stupider than people now. It's the same people. They just had more primitive technology and were in a less advanced stage of civilization. Like they were still able to do mathematics and build great pyramids and build great things like Stonehenge and all the ancient wonders of the world. And we're not any smarter now than those people. We just have more. We had more time to develop our, I guess, math and tools, just anything. As time passes and we get someone adds a new thing and adds a new thing into the point where we go from building Stonehenge to building the Empire State Building.
The problem is when you hear natural selection, you think it has to be something of nature. You think it has to be something to do with increasing your likelihood of achieving food, shelter, water. But natural selection doesn't mean that it can't be something that was done by man. For example, like Adolf Hitler was trying to make...
I'm just saying, be very careful on your wording.
I am.
Because you're going to upload this.
But Adolf Hitler was trying to do some form of natural selection. He wanted to eliminate anybody who was Jewish to prevent any Jewish descendants coming. Eliminate the Jews. So now, if he had his way, there would be no Jews.
Yes. I wouldn't be alive.
Yeah, you wouldn't exist.
I would. I'm not Jewish. I still probably wouldn't be alive, though.
So it doesn't seem natural at face value, but it comes from a natural tendency in his mind, a natural desire in his mind. It's sort of an artificial type, but it still is something that happens that could change.
When they say natural selection, I think they more mean like without human interference, which is kind of weird because we're part of nature. But I feel like motives are different for people than they are for nature. There's no motives for nature.
But the thing is, if
we have motives.
All right, if a predator kills all of its prey and there's no more of its prey left. For example, if bears ate all of the salmon, right? If they killed all the salmon and salmon went extinct, we would look at that as a form of natural selection, even though the bears were doing it.
The bears were doing it to survive.
Okay, how about if an invasive species, if some termite eliminated all birch trees, that would be natural selection because let's say pine trees, their sap prevented termites.
Exactly. It would be.
Right. So, but that's something that termites did. They did.
But they didn't do it for the sake of doing it. They did it because that's what termites do.
Right, but they still...
I feel like the whole natural...
But natural selection has nothing to do with intent.
I know, I agree with that.
It basically just has to do with whatever happens, the course of time, what happens, the result of that.
I do find it kind of weird that humans are not considered part of natural selection. We're kind of considered as an artificial change.
How?
But, like, we are. You know, if we bring, for example, we brought... I don't know. Let's say, what's something that we did that made a whole species go extinct? Maybe like
what's one that recently went extinct? I know there's so many.
The first one I think about is dodo birds.
Okay.
I don't know what happened with dodo birds.
Well, I mean,
all right, it doesn't matter what happened with dodo birds. We made them go extinct, I think, right?
Maybe.
And for some people, think of it as like, you know, that's not natural selection because we interfered. But aren't we part of nature?
Yes.
we're just trying to survive too. You know, we're just trying to better our species as well, and
That's
that's
what
what
I
every
mean.
species is doing.
It's kind of a misconception when you think
Yeah,
of
I
natural
agree with
selection.
that. I agree with
So
that. I think
so
it's
that's with that being said, with that being like agreed upon, that's why I think there can be another stage of evolution, because if you look at it this way, the way people are living back, if we were like living in caves, would be, oh, how many buffalo did you kill? Are you gonna eat? Okay, you made your living. Now a living is like, how much are you making? You know, are you eating well? And there's already a problem with obesity. People are dying, having heart problems, having all these sorts of problems because they're eating lousy food. Why? Because it's cheap. Cheap food generally tends to be bad for you because it has a longer shelf life.
Yep.
The people who are eating well are the wealthy ones. And why are they wealthy? Well, they're wealthy now because they have skills that are relevant to what people are trying to push forward. So what's going to happen 100 years from now when everything becomes highly digitalized? It's only going to be those who are very good at technical things, have high technical skills. Only the people who are significantly skilled in technology will make a living. So that means lots of other people are going to eat lousy and die young, and all these other people will live a long, full life.
But that's not evolution.
That is evolution, because that's getting rid of people whose brains can't think in like a logical manner in that sense that you need for these technical abilities. If you can't code an algorithm, if you could never figure out
Anyone can learn to code an algorithm. Like anyone can learn this stuff. The biology of the person is still exactly the same. Like we still have the same mental capacity, the same number of bones, same everything as we did 2,000 years ago. So it's likely going to be the same in the next 2,000 years too.
Would you agree that anybody could learn to be a lawyer, judge, or doctor?
Yes, anyone could learn it. You just need to put the time and dedication into doing those things. But everyone has the capabilities of learning those things.
Maybe the next evolution is going to be people who are more willing to have, people who have more of an ambition, and people who have more of a technical brain. They can think in that manner, because lots of people aren't lawyers, doctors, or judges. Because
that has to do with more of interest at that point of what you want to do, based on what you experience in life and what interests you. But it doesn't change the fact that everyone has the capability of doing those things. Like for example, maybe there's a bear out there that doesn't like hunting salmon as much as his friend to the left of him. But they both still have the same capability of hunting salmon.
Yeah, but if salmon's the only food source and this bear is trying to hunt gazelle,
but it's not like he's worse at it.
It's gonna die because it's gonna waste.
Due to a difference in biology and a change in evolution. Like they have the same exact biology. They're both the same fucking polar bear. Well, they're both polar bears. They both have.
They're both polar
white
bears.
Fur and are polar bears. Same everything.
But that's what we were talking about earlier. Not all variations have to be something you can physically see. They can be.
You don't have to be able to physically see it, but
like for as far as we know,
there.
As far as we know, there could have been a type of human hundreds of thousands of years ago who had like 4 stomachs.
You know, I actually argue with that. I think you do have to physically see it. I disagree.
Give me an example. Like why?
Because can you name 2 different species that look exactly the same? Of anything?
Well, the thing about that is there's family and there's genus. You can be different family and same genus. Yeah, birds. There's different types of birds.
But you can tell one species of bird from another just based on a lot of things. Size, color.
Right. Yeah, birds are not snakes.
You can tell snakes apart as well just by looking at them.
Right. You can tell people there are black people, there are white people.
But
there are short people, there are tall people. Those are variations. They look different, but being... I know, what is your point? How is it?
Because you said It doesn't have to be a physical change for
We
it to
both
be
said it
considered
doesn't have to
evolution.
be.
Yeah, but now I changed my mind.
Okay. But they have to change my mind too.
I changed my mind because I can't think of a single species of animal on Earth or a single, let's say, species of cat that don't look different but are different species.
That don't look different but are different species.
Yeah, exactly. Like there has to be physical changes.
Right, but we don't have two different generally in evolution, you don't have both living together for the same time. The reason another one comes is because the other one ends up not surviving.
Not all the time. For example, there's still chimpanzees, but we have a common ancestor.
That's true. That is true. That is true. But
there actually were two different species of humans, like Neanderthals or Tals. Neanderthals were living at the same time as Homo sapiens at one point.
Well, there are people who are still have Neanderthal DNA. Actually.
Exactly.
They actually just discovered a third type of human.
Which ones?
I don't remember the name, but I think it starts with a D. It was like within the last couple of months. There's a third type.
These are the humans that I know. You got Australopithecus.
You have Charles. He was my best friend in 5th grade.
Australopithecus.
Yep.
Homo habilis.
Okay.
Homo erectus. Neanderthal. Homo sapien.
Okay.
I think that's what they are.
Yeah.
But, chimpanzees are still alive. So,
yeah.
There's definitely some Neanderthals out there. And there's Homo sapiens.
All right, so
I think
so it has to be physical. Okay, I mean, but there are some people you look at them and you go, he looks like a caveman. Like there are some people
but you know they're human.
Right, they're living in I mean, imagine if like
if you saw a Homo erectus, you would know he's not the same species. Like they're just very different characteristics. It'd be furrier and more like more ape-like. It'd be like between an ape and a person.
Yeah.
Let me look up a Homo erectus. I'm just curious.
Okay. I mean, but would you agree that like we were very similar to Neanderthals? Like they had larger brains than us and everything, so
they did have larger brains, but they also had physically smoother brains, which means
yes. But I'm saying it'd be hard to tell us apart. I mean, because like, let's be honest, like you and I compared to a Neanderthal has more similarities in looks than you and I compared to Shaquille O'Neal. Right?
That's an interesting point that you make. Yes, I agree with that.
So
I don't know if I agree with that because I don't really know. I'm looking at photos of Neanderthals and like some of them look very human-like and some of them
they do look human-like. I mean, imagine if it was them who had the better capabilities of brains. Like there would be more there'd be Neanderthals working in an office.
I think Homo sapiens killed Neanderthals. We killed them off.
Would that be natural selection or evolution, or would that just be like another Holocaust scenario?
I don't know. I feel like modern day would be considered a Holocaust scenario. But
right, but just because it happened a long time ago doesn't mean that it would be different.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, actually.
Okay, so
I think the whole
that's what I mean by the bear with the salmon. If they eliminated salmon, we look at that as natural selection, just like that, because they were nasty with Neanderthals.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a different thing that I agree with you on. It's a different argument.
Just because it happened a long time ago. That's it.
Like Neanderthals look very ape-like. Like you could tell if you saw someone that was a Neanderthal, you wouldn't know they were a Neanderthal, but you'd feel like.
But they're just as far branched off from a chimp as we are. Like we didn't evolve from Neanderthals.
I know. The chimp's a common ancestor, and like everything else just kind of branched off the chimp.
Yes.
As far as I'm aware, I could be wrong.
Yes.
But Neanderthals look very.
They're hairy humans with weird foreheads. That's it. And you can see people today who kind of look like that. It's not hard.
Yes, true.
Like
Doesn't mean they're Neanderthals. Doesn't even mean they have Neanderthal DNA, just their characteristics.
yeah.
I'm looking at images, but like obviously images are not helpful at all because those are just interpretations of what we think they look like, which is not, in my opinion.
So just because it looks different doesn't mean it's evolved.
Well, I'm saying different looks. You can't look. What I'm saying, yeah, that's true.
It doesn't have to look different. It can be something such as brain capacity. That's why because you're saying you changed your mind on that.
Okay, but look at the skulls of a Neanderthal and a human.
I know what they look like. They're different skulls. Yeah, physically, yes.
Neanderthals have huge, bigger heads.
So does Shaquille. Dude, okay, Shaquille O'Neal's head's bigger than ours.
Okay, if you took Shaquille O'Neal's skull, right, and put it next to my skull, it'd be a bigger skull, and maybe there'd be some different shapes, the cheekbones and like jaw length and things like that, things that make people look different from each other. But they would both look like human skulls. Like if you put them next to each other, you would know based on the similarities that they're both human skulls. But if you put a Neanderthal skull, it'd be vastly different.
You could tell, yeah. You could tell it's different.
Huge. It's a different species.
But that doesn't matter because we didn't evolve from Neanderthals.
No, we did not. We did not evolve from Neanderthals.
So that doesn't matter. Like changes, like, and the thing is, like, if you look at things like life expectancy, even that's a change. Like we live longer, yeah, maybe because of like Santa being more sanitary and everything, but we still live longer. People their average life expectancies increase throughout time. The average height has increased throughout time.
Yes, that's true. But that has to do with nutrition, though. Height.
But those would be.
And life expectancy has to do with modern medicine. It has nothing to do with changing in human biology.
Okay, how about this? What if being a dwarf? What if that was a desirable trait? Like a mate for a mate, being a dwarf. There would be more dwarfs.
Yeah, people would be smaller.
Everyone would be smaller because everybody who's a dwarf would be mating, correct?
True, but the thing is, there's reasons why it's not a desirable trait. And it's because it's harder to survive. Like dwarves in nature would not have the same competitive capabilities as like not a dwarf, like a regular size.
You have to differentiate between us primitively and us today, because primitively we behave primitively. Today we behave primitively. No,
still have that instinct. That's the thing. There's a reason why, like,
correct. But Jake, today we are more civilized. That's why you'll see you'll see a ugly looking guy, super ugly guy who's a billionaire with a smoking hot wife.
Yeah, but the thing is, at the end of the day, it still has to do with that instinct to survive. Okay, so they might not have desirable traits, but they have security, and they have basically a promise that their kids will have the highest chance of survival because they have money and thus have the resources to access that. And that's really what it comes down to, is passing on your genes and making sure those genes can be passed down as farther and farther. That's all it really is.
But having $1 billion is not a gene.
I know, but it becomes a desirable trait. Like
it's not a trait either.
But okay. But having money is a form of security, which is desirable.
But money is not food, shelter, nor water.
But it promises food, shelter, and water. It's an association.
Yes, that's my point. Today in civilized life, money is what provides food, shelter, water. That's why make a living is different primitively as it is today. Now, your money, how you make a living today is not how you made a living 40,000 years ago.
No, it's...
That's an iteration that was not present as chimpanzees.
Okay, where are you trying to go with this?
Where I'm trying to go with this is I'm trying to say it doesn't have to be physically different. It doesn't have to be physically different because he's ugly. He's like the most undesirable mate ever, but he's got $1 billion. And this girl who could have anybody she wants will go with him because he's got $1 billion. If he didn't have $1 billion, he wouldn't be passing on any genes.
Not necessarily, just not passing on genes with her.
That'd be a very undesirable gene pool without the money.
Yeah, for sure. But you have to realize at the end of the day, it's all primal instinct. Those traits.
It has nothing to do with being alpha either, if that's what you're going to say.
No, it has nothing to do with being alpha. It doesn't really exist for humans, honestly, I don't think. But
it's because you're a beta.
Yeah, because I'm a beta. So I just think that at the end of the day, people are looking for other people with traits that'll promise the most success for their gene pool.
What is success, though?
Like the kids being able to eventually pass down their genes as well.
No woman's looking at that man going, "Oh,
They're not thinking it, like actively thinking it, but it's ingrained in our brains. Like for example, like sex drive. It's just ingrained. I think that it's ingrained. Like finding certain things attractive about somebody are things that are ingrained in our need to survive. Like for example, generally guys like girls with wider hips, right?
Yeah.
And that's not because like it's not just sexy because it's sexy. It's because wider hips are better at giving birth to a child.
But that's
so
not
find it more attractive.
But that's something that would be found at the core part of our brain.
Exactly.
If you gave a chimpanzee a suitcase full of $1 million, you think he's gonna go and deposit that to the bank and invest it in
No, because chimpanzees don't have the mental capacity to do that shit.
No, it's not that. It's because our appreciation of currency is something that is learned. That is a learned thing. Because you can teach a chimpanzee things. You can teach them things. Like you know how
But they will
do
never understand the concept of money. Because they're chimps. They can't do that. They don't have the ability to think logically like a person does. They can't think. Like, they can't think to themselves, I'm thinking this. They can't associate things with them. They don't have the cognitive ability.
You don't think that they can associate things with them, like them being a part of something?
They can't, like... It's hard to explain. They don't have the level of thought that we have. They don't know that they're... Like, they can't say, I'm alive right now. Like, a chimp can't do that. They just are alive. They can't wonder. Like, I wonder why that happens. They just do.
Well, how about like killer whales? Like, they raise their young. They care about their young. And like...
Because it's instinct to do that. It's
right,
all instinct. But every animal cares and raises their young. Like, even freaking...
No, there are animals that will eat their young.
Such as?
Such as, like...
Nothing will eat their own young.
Yes, they will. I guarantee that they will eat their own young. There are animals that eat their own young. Look up animals that eat their young.
Animals that eat their young.
There are fish that will eat their young. There are fish that will just eat their young if they get hungry.
Sometimes they'll kill their babies if they're starving.
Right, but can you imagine that today? Oh, I'm starving. I'm going to eat my child.
Well, humans are different than other animals. But other animals will still do that. Generally speaking, and especially with mammals.
I'm saying the desire for a mate has changed. It no longer has to do with food, shelter, water. It now has to do with something that is learned.
It does have to do with food, shelter, water, and security.
I mean, yes, to a degree. Yeah,
no,
to a degree it does. But that degree has significantly decreased.
I think it does have to do with food, shelter, and water.
Okay.
And security. I think security is a big one. But it's not from physical traits. It's from You associate certain things that you learn through life with that now. That's the thing that changed, such as money.
Why are so many people losing their jobs? Like, how come there are, like, for example, what I mean by automation, okay, there's a self-checkout line at a grocery store. Cashiers lose their job. All right? Right?
Yes.
All right. The desire for having someone to teach you how to speak Mandarin has probably decreased. Why? Because Rosetta Stone, because of technology. So where does the job shift? The job now shifts to somebody who is writing that code and working on the...
What does it have to do with evolution, though?
This is the whole point I'm trying to make. So now that's the job. If money is
not evolution.
Let me finish so you can understand what my point. All right. So we both agree that money is something that makes somebody a desirable mate. Correct. The way people make money is shifting more towards a technological aspect. It's shifting more towards technology. The good paying jobs are software engineers, programmers, people in Silicon Valley, tech companies. Those are the good jobs. That's what it's shifting towards. Inventors. You see less and less people doing laborious jobs. That's why an electrician can make like $80,000 a year, because everybody's trying to go in that direction and just abandon electricians. Making people who do tech more desirable mates. Making people who can think in a technological way the next iteration of people. They're doing better. Like, it's just starting now, but in 100 years from now, when everything is so digitalized, it's going to be that way. It's going to be that way.
But I don't understand how that has to do with evolution.
In 50 years, you will never...
It's not like the person is changing. They're still the same humans. Just like 2,000 years ago, it was desired to have a big, strong dude who can hunt for you. You know?
Yes.
It doesn't mean the person biologically is different from anyone now. It's the same.
Would you agree that...
same genes.
Would you agree that programmers are generally, like people who are working, like people who work for Google and stuff like that, they're generally smarter than your average Joe?
Yes, I do.
Right. Would you agree anybody working in that sort of environment is generally smarter than your average carpenter?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I mean. That's where the jobs are going. And you agree that money is something that makes you a desirable mate because it provides you with that security.
Mm-hmm.
The money's going towards those people.
Yes.
Therefore, meaning the attractive mate view is going towards those people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are people who don't do that still can survive, but that's where it's going. So humans are going to develop into having those brains, those genes that guy has that makes his brain work better.
But it's not something that has to do with the genes that make his brain work better. His brain's not working better just because.
So you think people like that are...
I'm thinking the carpenter has the same mental capacity as the programmer.
Yeah.
But the programmer just learned more and dedicated more of his time to learning about that stuff than the carpenter. If the carpenter did the same thing and had the same drive to do that thing as the programmer, he would be just maybe not just as successful, but just as knowledgeable on that.
Right.
Like, everyone has the same capabilities. It's not evolution. That's just
I don't agree that everybody has the same capabilities.
Generally speaking, everyone has around similar intelligence levels.
And things in that nature.
Generally speaking.
And I'm saying things in like the Google sphere nature require a higher mental capability to do that stuff. That's really complex stuff.
It's all how much time you put into the thing you want to do at the end of the day. It has nothing to do with how smart you are.
So
the more time you put into something, the better you're going to be at that thing than other people. You have to put that time in. And it applies to anything. Everything, literally everything. You can apply it.
You could put your whole life into being the best point guard, but you're never going to be better than anybody in the NBA.
Yeah, well, if you're physically short, then
yes, but your brain is also a physical organ. Some people's brains just don't have the responsive neurons that some people have. They don't have as many wrinkles in their brain. They're not able to think the way that they think.
That's generally speaking.
Yeah, generally speaking.
That's not true. Generally speaking, I'm talking about the average person.
All right, so then why did we thrive and why did chimps stay where they were? They stayed
because chimps didn't need to go anywhere else. They were still passing on their genes. They were still reproducing. They're doing fine. That's because their quality of life isn't as good as ours.
Are there more chimps or humans?
There's more humans.
Why?
Because we reproduced more and we survived.
Yeah, why did we reproduce more and survive?
Because we have better technology, we can do that. We have better communication.
And now why do we have better technology and better communication?
Because we are smarter than chimps.
Correct. They still exist, yes, but we've far surpassed the numbers that they exist. And natural selection
but
really
it's not a competition though in that regard. It's not
right, but it kind of is because it's survival of the fittest. But the thing is, natural selection doesn't mean extinction. Natural selection means thriving.
Yes. I know it doesn't mean extinction.
Right. So I'm saying these people can still exist, but it's going to shift to where the general public becomes.
But it's not like the species changes. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not like the species shifts. It's not like now there's a new species of human that's good at this that can't reproduce with this other species of human because they're different species now.
Oh, yeah, sure. No,
two separate species can't have viable offspring. And by viable,
oh, of course,
I mean, you can have a kid with someone if you're close enough in ancestors, you can technically have a child or a offspring with that animal, right? But the animal that comes out will be sterile. For example, like a donkey and a horse. When they have a baby, it's a mule, and mules are sterile.
Yeah.
That's why they're considered two different species. But the species will be the same. Will still be the same human.
Yes.
Like, that's really what the difference is. Like, it's not evolution.
Your intelligence is some degree genetic. Just know that. It's
some
like,
degree.
I would say it's 80% genetic.
I'd say your intelligence is 80% nurture over nature.
I'm very confident in that being around 80% genetic.
I want your source.
Look it up. I don't know, but I've heard this.
You can talk while I'm looking it up. Don't worry.
I want to know. Like what percent of your intelligence is genetic? But look at like a very. Don't look at CNN. Don't look at nothing that's gonna be like.
Calm down. Look it up.
A little bias.
This is a government website. GHR.NLM.NIH.gov. I don't know what that is. National Library of Medicine. Okay, let me read this. It's influenced by both genetic and environmental factors. Okay.
And the simple way to even prove this would be Asians they're smarter than us. They're
nature over nurture. I mean, nurture over nature.
Nurture over nature.
In that, yeah.
What percent is responsible?
It says these studies suggest that genetic factors underline about 50% of the difference in intelligence among individuals. So 50%.
Okay, 50. 15 or 50?
50. The other studies examine variations across the entire genomes of many people. Those whether any specific area of the genome were associated with IQ. These studies have not conclusively identified any genes that underline differences in intelligence. So, according to one study, there's no genes that underline difference in intelligence. It is likely that a large number of genes are involved, each of which make only a small 100 to 2% intelligence.
All right. then let's just wash that whole point, because if it's kind of undecisive, then there's no point in saying one way or another.
Not conclusive evidence.
Not conclusive, so we can't say. However, I can even think of examples where like there's people who have two smart parents and they're just smart.
Because smart parents know how to raise kids that are motivated.
Not always, no. Not always.
Okay,
It's
but
just, there are shitty parents who have brilliant kids, or like really ambitious kids at least. And there are shitty parents who have dumb kids. There are good parents who have dumb kids.
I think it is based on what you're told by your people around you when you're very young. It determines if you become a smart person or not. Like if you're told, "Oh, you're so smart, you're so smart, you're so smart, you're so smart, you're so smart," as a kid, you're gonna think you're smart.
Or it'll just make you arrogant.
Yeah, which is
because a lot of like really smart
arrogant.
people.
Everyone was told they're fucking smart when we were a child. Everybody.
Yep, but
I really thought I was special being told that, but I realized I'm not that smart. So
a lot of brilliant people have had like really lousy childhoods.
Yes.
Really lousy, lonely childhoods. A lot of brilliant people.
Yes, they have.
That would be no nurture at all. So I guess, yeah.
I just think what you're interested in is what you pursue and what you spend more time doing, so that's you get better.
What do people generally like? They generally like things they're good at naturally to some degree.
Yes.
Right. So that's a problem.
Like
one last thing is people today have also developed rapidly. It's popular culture now for immediate gratification. Mm-hmm. So long-term work and everything is not a very common thing nowadays, which further narrows the margin of people that would evolve to have, in your scenario, work hard and go and be able to get that job, because that's very narrow margins to begin with.
So, you asking me a question or?
Oh boy.
Yeah. Can you repeat what you said?
It's all right. Jake's a little sleepy. He's a little sleepyhead.
A little bit.
So we're just gonna end this.
No,
we can end it for now. We can end it for now, and we can come back to it with a little bit of a different take. And
okay.
What do you want to do here? All right. So thank you, and have a good night. And sorry for the long absentee.